This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of No Other Pod. I'm Jimmy, along with my good buddy Daniel Kooser. And Dan, is this the first double victory pod we have this year?
I mean, it's time to implode the podcast. It's time to shut it down. It feels, this is weird. We're saying that in the month of July, and that feels weird to say.
Yeah. I know it's the first time that we've won back-to-back MLS games all year. So I think that probably lends itself to the first time we've won back-to-back games all year as well, because I there just haven't been a whole lot of Open Cup games. So
first road win since March. What an epic week, and some late nights as well. And I just,
oh my God,
I'm telling you, man, I got ideas for toast of the match today. I'll tell you that.
Okay. I'm excited to hear that. Yeah, there were some very late night / early mornings this week as a result of both some late kick times and the weather, the skies that opened up upon us at Children's Mercy Park.
I've also decided I'm going to commit my life to being as fit as Eric Tommy, because the man played, 120 minutes on Wednesday and then comes out and damn near plays 90 in San Jose. And I was just like, I was floored at the amount of fitness this man has.
Yeah, Tim Leibold, another one that had to go 120 on Wednesday and then again 90 on Saturday night, just because there was nobody else, quite literally.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll talk about all that happened. I kind of want to kick it off. Normally we ask to leave your 5-star rating and reviews if you have any. We didn't get any new reviews this week on Apple Podcasts, but I want to kick this off with an email we got from one of our listeners. Sam Gleason is a listener, and he sent us an email a couple days ago that I just thought was kind of cool, which I'm just going to count this as a 5-star review because of what he says in there. But I'm going to go ahead and read this to you real quick. The email says, subject line, listening from the trail. And he goes, hey, y'all, just wanted to send you an email while I have a signal letting you know how much I've been loving listening to No Other Pod, and currently while I'm backpacking the Colorado Trail. All told, it is going to take me 32 days to complete, and while I haven't been able to watch as much as I would like, but I did haul ass to a ski resort to watch Sporting beat some Dallas with some rare Wi-Fi I managed to get on a night off the trail. Thanks for always being supportive of the club and the fans. I can't wait to snag a download to catch up on all the latest I have missed while mostly disconnected in the mountains here. You guys are one of only 3 podcasts I use my precious phone battery for, so that should be worth something, right? As for my current hot take, I would love to see a little less time from Polito on the field. I don't care what he's being paid. The young guns are outperforming him so much. Thanks again. P.S. Dan, I will see you and Chris at CMP when I'm back in August.
See, this, the name did not ring out to me. I did not know this man at first, but I do know that first name, and this man sits in our row. I believe that's his season ticket, and I know whenever we've been there this year, he's had to miss out, and we haven't been able to be at a lot of games either, because it's a theater thing, life stuff. But man, Sam's great, dude. Sam came up and introduced himself to us very early on last season, maybe.
Yeah,
really nice guy.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I have not done a 33-day backpacking trip. That's a long time.
Done 0 backpacking trip. Well, I'm intimidated by the thought of this. It sounds wild.
But I do know, I've watched some documentaries about people who hike the Pacific Crest Trail, which goes from Mexico to Canada through California, Oregon, and Washington and whatnot. And I know...
You just walk? Like that's hiking? Walking?
Walk, yeah. It takes 6 months.
Well, that sounds awful because there's like bears and stuff, bro.
There are. And if you do the PCT, you start at the California-Mexico border, and then the first couple of weeks, you're basically just hiking through barren desert. And then you get to... more of the Sierra Nevada mountains, and you get up into California, and then when you get up into Oregon and Washington, by that time you've gone from spring when you left, you do summer in the middle of California, Yosemite and into Southern Oregon, but you need to make sure that you get into Northern Oregon and Washington before it gets too far into the fall, and then it becomes snowy. So you have like 3 seasons you have to worry about over the 6-month period. It's very intense.
Do you have to hunt for food?
You basically... you can ship, my understanding, I've not done this, is you can ship yourself supplies to various different stops on the way. And there are little towns that basically survive off hikers coming in and like replenishing their supplies along the way.
That's how scary movies start, bro. Oh, another hiker into our little town. And then it's like the whole town is just one big cult, and now they sacrifice hikers. I'm just throwing it out there.
Well,
Sam, be careful.
There's also things, at least on the PCT, that they're literally called quote-unquote trail angels, where they're people who live off the trail, and they put like little like kits or boxes or supplies along the trail for people to grab on the way. So
that's true crime shit, dude. I'm telling you, that's true crime shit.
Yeah. But anyway, the point of me sharing this is I know how precious phone battery can be when you're out on the trail, especially when you need it for potential safety situations, if you need to make a satellite call or whatnot. So, Sam, thank you for listening to us on the trail. If you're listening to this right now, hope you're safe. Hope there are no bears. I don't know much about the Colorado Trail, but, looking forward to having you back at some games later this year.
I'm going to stop complaining when my battery is dying and I'm like 20 minutes from home.
Right.
That's not real world problem.
You don't have a bear actively chasing you when you're miles from civilization.
And you got a backpack full of like tents and supplies and stuff. Just you got to set up tent. I don't think I've ever set up a tent in my life.
You've got to set up tent? I don't know.
I'm not an outdoors man. I'm not an outdoors guy at all. I hate it, man. Especially summertime. It gets hot. I'm like, nah, I'll be in the basement.
You never did like Boy Scouts or anything?
I did, and I hated it. I hated it so much, dude. I woke up in our little tent on my cot, and I was covered head to toe in daddy long leg spiders.
Oh, that's...
I swear to God, they were all over me. I ran out to the fire. And I was like... And Dad was like... It was like fun with sun. So my dad was there too. And I was like, I don't like it out here, Dad. That's not... And I think that's where my arachnophobia started. It has to.
That's fair. That's fair. That's...
I was covered.
I'm in my mind's eye, I have you pictured, you just have like a blanket from your neck down to your feet, except instead of a blanket, it's just spiders.
It felt like that. And maybe as a child, you kind of inflame your experience a little more, Yeah. But the way I remember it, there were spiders all over me. Yeah. And that's crazy.
That's not fun. I don't love that.
And we had to carve things out of soap. And I was no good at that. We had to do archery.
The Pinewood Derby, the little car race thing where you had to make
very good at that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Decorate it and everything. So
I went for more decoration instead of speed. I was like, yeah, you might beat me, but look how good mine looks.
But mine looks damn good.
100%.
That's funny. Well, yeah, I thank you, Sam. Appreciate it. If you want to send us an email, knowtheirpod@gmail.com. We have another email we'll read at the end of the episode too. We got 2 emails this week. So
we did.
Pretty good. So
fun time. Sporty must be winning some games. So people are like, I need to send in my thoughts.
They must be. And we're gonna break down both of these games. It started with the Open Cup game on Wednesday, and let me just say, I show up to this game, and I knew I had seen earlier in the day when I was at work that there was some thunderstorm watches that were happening. But when I looked earlier in the day, the National Weather Service of Kansas City had all of the thunderstorm watches basically north of the metro. In the far, far northern parts of the metro, we had up in Iowa, Nebraska, the very northwestern parts of Missouri. It did not even occur to me because nobody had said anything about there might be severe weather at Children's Mercy Park. So I show up to this game, 8 p.m. kick, already a little later than normal. I'm like, okay, it's a work night. Let's get this in, get it out, let's get home. We got a meeting early in the morning. Did not bring any rain jacket. Did not bring anything. And just...
You're outside?
No, I was in the press box, but it's just like, it never, normally if it's raining, I try to bring something because if I have to then walk back to my car, I got my laptop, I don't want it to get ruined.
Sure.
Didn't even occur to me. And then halftime happens, and about halfway through halftime, and we'll talk about the game a little bit too, but I just want to talk about some weather stuff here. About halfway through halftime, the temperature dropped by like 20 degrees in a matter of like 4 minutes. And I was like, either the White Walkers are approaching or a storm's coming. And
something's happening.
And I looked at the weather, and sure enough, there was just a massive, like on the on radar when it's like green, yellow, red, pink, purple, like as it gets more intense. It was like a pink and purple blob coming right for the stadium. I was like, oh, this is going to be a problem. And then sure enough, 5 minutes into the second half, the delay started, and it was 2 hours, and it was not fun.
Here was my experience. I had Jersey Boys music rehearsal, and so we're singing through songs, And I don't, spoiler alert, my character doesn't come on till like song 11, which is pretty cool. And so she's like, all right, let's sing through your songs and you can leave early. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm going to get to go home and watch the game. And I did. I got out of there about 7:50. Made it home. Kickoff was at around 8:10 or something like that. And I was just in it, dude. I was like, I'm getting myself a little drink. I'm so excited that I'm enjoying this game that I didn't think I'd be able to enjoy it. I thought I was out. And then the delay happens and I was like, well, maybe it won't be that long. And Marissa and I think, just sat in silence, like on our phones for like forever. And that's kind of the best part of a relationship sometime, where you both can just sit there and just scroll on your phones and shit. I don't know. There's something charming about that.
Well, and you're both secure enough, where you don't have to feel like you constantly have to fill the silence.
You don't have to fill the silence. But we did not make it, bro. We started to retire up to the room about 11. I was like, okay, this game's going to kick back off.
Retire up to the room.
What the hell? Is that not a word people say?
I don't know. I feel like it sounds like you're in a smoking jacket and you're 75 years old. You're like, I'm going to retire up to the room.
I had a pipe.
Glass of brandy and my pipe.
I'm very distinguished. I'm a gentleman and a scholar.
20s.
I'm a gentleman and a scholar. And we go upstairs and I'm like, man, we're never going to make it through this game. Like, I know the moment you lay in bed, your body's like, well, that's sleep place. That's where you sleep.
Right. Yes.
And dude, I made it to the end of full time, but extra time started and I was like, snooze.
Yeah. Well, that was the worst part, is because, so let's, I guess let's, this is a decent time to at least mention that, nothing of much interest happened in the first half. If you look at essentially what happened throughout the night, Sporting KC had 6 shots on goal, Dallas 8 shots on goal, etc. But, at the end of the first half, it was still 0-0. And the second half had just started. It was 6 minutes into it, I think. It was the 51st minute when the weather delay hit. And neither team had looked very good in the first half. So we get to this break. And honestly, when the break happens and I check the weather, Future Radar is not all that accurate. If anybody has any suggestions for good weather apps that are better than the Weather Channel app or AccuWeather, I'm all ears. I'm willing to pay for one if I need to, because I
not pay for one.
I like to know. I want good, accurate radar. But I'm checking the apps that I have, and it looks like we're going to be here for a while. This does not let up for a long time.
Didn't look good.
No. Sure enough, it was about 2 hours. As soon as they hit the weather delay, I was sitting next to Cody Bradley from KC Soccer Channel. This dude packed his shit up and got out of there so fast. He ran to his car. He was like, I'm not going to be here for weather delay, and I'm going to beat the rain to my car. And he bounced like he was the Flash and sprinted apparently to his car. The rest of us, we kind of just hung out for 2 hours and watched Colombians and Uruguayans fight each other. So
that's a whole different story. What the hell is that about?
Yeah, it was pretty wild. I mean, I don't know. I tried to put up a video of the weather delay on my Twitter. It never captures it as well as it does in person. But I mean, the skies opened up. It was a downpour. It looked like there were little waterfalls coming off of the overhang on what would be the west side of Children's Mercy Park. And then you heard the hail just hitting all over. Apparently it was about dime-sized hail, just hitting all over. And I wouldn't do this, but shout out to the fans who were doing it, especially in the South Stand, but over in the Cauldron too. There were some dudes shirtless with the flags waving the entire 2 hours. I assume they had like a rotation going or something, because my arms will be tired. But they were out there, and there was even a dude over in the Cauldron who was continuing to play drums. And I was like, if lightning's hitting, I'm probably not standing outdoors with metal instruments. But
yeah, but we did. Remember, we were over there one time and we stood in the rain, but
there was no lightning.
Was there not? It was just rain.
I don't think it was. I don't know. I guess
they don't delay it for rain.
That's true.
Unless the ball, if the ball can't bounce, then it delays.
But you're right. There might have been lightning there. We did stay out there for a while.
We were crazy, man. We were young. We were young and free.
But I don't know. It was just a long, weird break, and we kept turning to the sporting communications people like, you got any update? They're like, no. You got any update? They're like, no. And finally, we turned to Kurt Austin, director of communications, like, what do you think? And he goes, think we're heading in the right direction. It's starting to clear up, starting to look good. And the second he says that, the largest bolt of lightning that I've ever seen cracks across the sky right above the stadium. And he was like, okay, well.
Had more time.
So
that's upsetting.
Yeah, I don't know. But it was kind of fun, at least for me, in a weird way, because I got to sit in a warm press box with beverages provided and just in my computer and just watch. So,
but that's what I'm saying now. Here, Wednesday night, people got work tomorrow or something. They got something to do in the morning. It's late. People don't stay out this late on Wednesdays very often. That's why I'm thinking my toast to the match goes to the people that stayed. From fans.
Let's do it.
Yeah. From fans to press box. I mean, Holiday Distillery toast to the match, man, to the people who stayed there the whole time. And Johnny even got a pretty big quote.
Mm-hmm.
He was quoted as saying, like, this really means a lot. You know, we're struggling. Things aren't great. And we see you sticking around. And there were even kids in the crowd. And that was huge, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Shout out Holiday Distillery toast to the match to all the fans who stuck through that game Wednesday night. It ended at like 12:45 a.m. Central Time because it went to extra time, which we'll talk about. But yes, Holiday Distillery toast to the match to the Sporting KC fans who stuck through to the end of the U.S. Open Cup game. And just to put a bow on that before we take our break here real quick, Johnny, he wasn't even like, this wasn't even a question that was prompted to him. He just added this in at the end of one of his answers. He goes, quote, "I want to say a huge shout out as well to the fans that stayed and even the fans that turned up. I know it's not easy. I saw a bunch of kids out there. Trust me, I know what it's like when you keep your kids up. So to each and every fan that turned up, that watched, and especially the guys that stayed, you have no idea how much we appreciate that. We understand it. That hasn't been easy at times this year, but to stick by us like that, it means the world to us. It really does."
Did you go to work on time the next day?
Oh yeah, I did. I was there.
Sounds awful.
Yeah. I got home at 2:30 in the morning.
Oh, no. Now, you're not a morning workout guy, right? You're a nighttime workout guy?
I'll do like an afternoon or evening workout, yeah.
Gotcha.
So,
but everyone's different. Obviously, there's
not a chance in hell I would have done a morning workout getting home at 2:30 in the morning.
Also, that would have been wild. Yeah.
Well,
no excuses.
No excuses. Let's go ahead and take our break real quick, and we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit more about this game.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest-ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
Yo, I got to ask you, have you seen, you don't like this kind of stuff, so maybe you don't give a shit, but this movie Long Legs that people are talking about?
I've heard about it, but I don't know what it actually is.
I don't know what it is either, nor is it showing in my local decent theater. It's showing in like a poorer theater, kind of like it doesn't have recliners. When I say poorer, it doesn't have recliners. All right, I need my rich recliners. But it's
you need the theater that the people who retire to their bed quarters go to.
Goddamn right I do. And my smoking jacket, man. I think I've heard about this, and people are saying it's like the best horror movie in years, and it's the biggest opening for this like production studio in years. So
okay,
Nicolas Cage is in it, and he's pretty creepy apparently.
Nicolas, see, that almost takes me out of the horror of it because Nicolas Cage is in it. I'm like, oh, this is Nicolas Cage.
You almost want to, I don't know, all the buzz about stuff like that. You almost want to check it out, but you don't do scary movies.
I mean, it depends. I'll do some, like, you know, for some reason when It came out, I was like, I feel like I kind of want to go see this. So I went to see It in theaters, and that didn't scare me.
I was like, "This scare you?"
No,
dude.
This was a clown. Clowns don't scare me. I don't remember if it's It or It 2. Spoiler alert. 10 years later, whatever it is. But one of them, what do they bully him to death, basically. Like I was like, this isn't scary. So, you know, that didn't bother me. And I've seen, you know, Haunting of Hill House, or, you know, what was the one that just came out? The Edgar Allan Poe one on Netflix, the show. I'm the most recent show that the guy who did Hill House did. I'm forgetting. I watched that one. That one didn't scare me really. So
yeah,
I don't know. Maybe.
Wow. I did my Deadpool prep yesterday, man. Watched the first 2 Deadpool movies, and I'm ready to roll.
Yeah, I actually had tickets to Deadpool, but Fall of the House of Usher. That's the show I was thinking of. I had tickets to Deadpool. I had to. Turns out I'm gonna be out of town next week, so I had to cancel my ticket. So I got to try to find out when I'm gonna go see Deadpool. But I get there. I'm excited. That one should be good. Looking forward to that.
Should be.
Let's talk a little bit more about this second half of this Dallas game, because and Peter said and Johnny agreed, they thought that the 2-hour break actually helped Sporting Kansas City. And I would agree, because even though Sporting didn't get their first goal until the 77th minute, when Sporting came out, or when both teams came out and they restarted play, Sporting had a few chances right off the bat in the second half, and they really seemed like they were there to play, and Dallas looked like they were tired. So it seemed like whatever happened in the break, and once they realized it was going to be a long break, they kind of settled in. And I think Johnny said some dudes were just playing Uno in the clubhouse, and they were watching the LA Seattle game and such. But it seemed like that almost was a needed reset for them. After, we had just played Dallas in an MLS game on Sunday. Now this is Wednesday. Maybe they were a little bit too hyped up in the first half. Things weren't going well. Did it seem to you like when they came back out after the break that they'd almost settled in a little bit, and Dallas seemed like they were just kind of over it? Because at that point, Dallas had been in Kansas City for like 6 days or something.
I know, right? Yeah, they didn't go home. So it did seem like that. Yeah, you're 100% right. It was just, I was so disjointed, man. I was so tired, too. Was trying to stick with it, the storylines and everything going on. But it was a late night, and that can really mess with your head a little bit. And all I could think was, dude, the players. Like, the body is not meant to cool down and then warm back up again to go.
Right.
Like, that's why, like, there's studies out there saying, like, you should not or don't need to work out multiple times a day. It's not exactly good for your body. If you do a proper workout once, it's good, right? So for them to have to cool down, they've just been playing a long time, dude, and now they got to go sit for 2 hours. I mean, that's giving KC Current vibes down in Houston earlier in the season.
Yeah.
Not fun.
Have you ever, I never played high-level sports, and I don't know, what the highest level you played. I know you've done some club, pickup type stuff or whatnot, but have you ever been in a situation where you had to... You played college football?
Community college, yeah.
I didn't realize that. That's cool. Were you ever in a situation where there was a weather delay or something that caused you to have to start up activity, then take a long break, and then have to start it up again a few hours later?
Yeah, I'm sure there was something like that in high school football, but they send you to the field house where the locker rooms are, and I'm like, well, this is just a big metal building. Why don't you put all these children in it? But when you're a kid, dude, you're invincible. Cooling down and warming back up is nothing. You're ready to go. Yeah. So you don't really think about that stuff. But as an adult, I'm like, woo, it's important, man, to cool down and warm up pretty successfully.
Well, especially in a game like soccer where it's like you're constantly moving and you're going from sprint to jog, and you're already running the risk of dehydration when the weather's as warm as it is. So that, like you said, to have your muscles get warm and then cool down, you have to be very deliberate in how you warm up again to avoid cramping, to avoid muscle tears, pulls, etc. And they only had, I think it's 10, 15 minutes to do on-field warm-ups before they restarted the match. I'm sure as they get closer, they start doing more stretches and stuff in the locker room. But Sporting looked much better, and it was in the 77th minute finally when Sporting KC broke through. And shout out to Jake Davis. He had a hell of a match. He stayed. Pluskamp had already left to go to the Olympics, and Sporting had talked to the Olympic coach and said, well, we got to have Jake through Wednesday. We just don't have enough midfielders, and they agreed, and Jake wanted to stay for that. So That's stayed. Pretty
cool. I didn't realize that. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, because Pluskamp was already gone, and so they had worked out a deal where Jake could be there at least through Wednesday. And that was huge because on this goal, Johnny has this gorgeous little flick to Jake, who makes a run into the box, and then Jake just beautifully chests it down to himself, and then this wonderful little cut back pass to Willie, who's there in the perfect spot to send it into the goal to give Sporting a 1-0 lead. This is the type of goal I want to see more of: a good run into the box, a delayed run behind, multiple runners, and just well played all around by the team. So
yeah,
just really good.
For this whole game, I can look at. They will call a game if 65 minutes or more have been played. If there's a weather delay, they'll call it a 65. Now, I think the weather delay happened in the 50-something.
51, 52, yeah.
but there was also no goal. So I was like, damn it. Could you imagine if it was like 10 minutes later and we were up 1-0? What a night.
Just
that would
call
be
it.
great.
And you know what? Part of me thinks that Dallas would have been okay with it.
Maybe.
It was.
They had good roster out there too, man. We all put our best roster available out there. And I love the Dallas people online. They're like, yo, wait, when we get our real roster out there on Wednesday, we going to get that cup.
Mm-hmm.
No, you're not.
No. And, Paul Arriola had another moment where he was down on the field holding his face because he thought something bad happened to him and didn't.
Does this man have a history of doing that? Because he's doing a little, some of the Neymar rolls, or he does 3 or 4 rolls on the ground.
Yeah.
What is that, Paul? What are you doing?
I don't know. It's embarrassing, honestly.
It is. You're a veteran of the game, and what do you think this is, dude? This, I don't know. It makes me feel weird, and I lose respect for that person.
Well, it is a bummer because, yeah, like you said, this is a man he's been around for a while. He's played in Europe. He's played for the U.S. men's national team. He's one of the more established names in the league, one could argue.
If he's on your team, you're happy about it, you know?
And then
until he does something like that.
Rolling around like he just got, stepped on a landmine or something. I just don't understand.
I will be honest, getting stepped on with a cleat hurts so bad. Mm-hmm. But I've never gone to ground. I have just kind of limped, been like, oh boy, oh, that hurts so bad. But these guys go down and they start going to gymnastics class. It's crazy.
Well, it makes me wonder, since this was technically an Open Cup game, they don't have the same time-wasting rules that MLS has, because MLS has the you down for 15 seconds, you got to leave for a minute or two rule or whatnot. So
yeah,
had that been in an MLS game, I wonder how long he would have actually stayed down, but you never know.
And it was a foul, though. I mean, he did.
Yeah, it was a foul.
But also, I was kind of like, didn't he get him on the shin guard?
Right.
I feel like he's probably okay. He didn't step on his foot, which hurts like a bitch, dude.
Right. Yeah. Was it I forget the guy's name. I think he plays for Argentina, but there's the one player you keep seeing all the clips of him where he's just flopping, the ball tapped him in the back and he fell down and he grabbed his back or whatnot. And he's asked about it after the game and he's like, yeah, that's what we do. You get calls. That's just part of it. And
that's what we do. Yeah. That's why your game is not respected. That's why people are like, oh, I'm not going to watch stupid soccer where they just roll around on the ground. Our sport that we cover here, bud, our sport that we love more than anything else is a laughingstock to a lot of people because of that stuff.
Yeah, I get it. And that's, honestly, one of the reasons why I genuinely believe that in the women's game, it's less of an issue. They stay back up. They have
so badass.
I mean, you look at that game with the Current and the Orlando Pride, that was a physical as hell game. And there weren't people rolling around like they had just, had their legs chopped off.
No one stayed down, ever.
Yeah.
How wouldn't that be so emasculating for a male player to know that these women are so badass and just popping up, and you're like, oh, well, I'm a weak man.
I don't know. This is part of the soccer culture, I guess. And credit to MLS. I know there's a lot of controversy about this time-wasting rule. Credit to them for trying something to figure it out because, in theory, it should be on the refs to handle, but the refs don't always handle it. But I got a scores. You're feeling great. You're like, okay, you know what? You get into the 80th minute, 85th minute. I turned to the sporting communication staff, and I was like, we don't go to extra time, right? We go right to penalties just if something were to happen. And they're like, no, we go to extra time. And I was like, we can't go to extra time. It's already it's almost, 11:30 at this point. This game kicked off at 8. Like, we don't need extra time. So for once, sporting, let's see out a 1-goal lead. Let's not let anything weird happen. Let's just do what normal things that should happen are in a soccer game and just see out this game with 4 minutes left. And sure enough, Danny Rosero, he steps way too high up the field. Kyrie can't react in time, and Peter Musa has what could be the easiest goal of his life as he dribbles right toward T-Amelia one-on-one and ties the game in the 87th minute, and we went to extra time, which was a minimum of 30 more minutes, and I almost cried in the press box because I was like, I've already been here for 84 years. I don't want to do this anymore.
Were you having energy drinks or coffee or anything at all?
I had an energy drink on the way to the game because I was like, it's going to be a late game. So I had an energy drink, and then I had a coffee before the game, and then I had another coffee during the weather delay. So, I was trying. I had a protein bar that I started eating in my backpack because there was no more food. So I'm like, I'm just going to eat a protein bar so I don't starve to death here, being trapped in the stadium. They did give $5 of sporting cash to everybody who stayed, so they could go buy half of a water bottle. But that was
unless there's a deal.
Unless there's a deal, then you can get a whole water bottle.
Sonny, baby.
First half of stoppage time happens, not a whole lot. Second half of stoppage time happens. Danny Rosero, 111th minute, head off the corner kick into the net. He gets a yellow card because he whips off his jersey. My first thought is, Danny, there's 10 more minutes plus stoppage time to play. Let's not count our chickens before they roost, and let's see this game out. Thankfully, they did. It got a little nervy at the end, but ultimately Sporting Kansas City wins, and they will host the Indy 11 of the USL in the semifinals, either August 27th or 28th. So,
love that.
There it is. And I said earlier, they watched the LA Seattle game in the locker room. They were watching the LAFC New Mexico game. The semifinal game will be LA versus Seattle. So if Sporting wins, then they will play either LAFC or the Seattle Sounders in the final.
But I mean, one would hope for Seattle Sounders because they've had ups and downs this year, right?
Yeah, but they've been on a little run.
They are a little run, but I don't want to say we're on a little run. Like we've won 2 league games in a row, which is good points, man. We're now above St. Louis, which is all I want in this world. But we are 7 points out of a playoff position. And
won 4 of their last 5 games in all competitions, Sporting has.
I'm not getting excited. I'm not going to say we are fixed, things are turned around. But hey, these are the kinds of things you got to do. You got to pick up away points against the team that you should pick up away points against. Like you just have to.
Yeah, and we had talked about with the San Jose game, that's what needed to happen. You needed to go to San Jose. You needed to get 3 points. And if you can't do it against the worst team in the league, then, this is the position that you're in. And when you look at the lineup that they put out against San Jose, we knew there was going to be some heavy rotation because, like we had just talked about, 120 minutes on Wednesday night. 3 days later, it was a long break. And we once again had this sort of 4-2-3-1 formation that Peter's been favoring as of late. And yeah, there was some rotation. We had Kyrie at right back, which we kind of expected because Caden is injured again and Jake is gone. And then Memo and Radoya sort of as the double pivot with Afrifa, Tommy, and Vargas as the 3 line and Polito up top. And in the first half, nothing really happened. There were some chances for Sporting that they had early, couldn't convert. It felt to me like, especially Vargas and Tommy on the right side, just were not on the same page whatsoever. Like, it seemed clunky. It seemed awkward. It seemed like Tommy would want to make a run and Vargas wouldn't hit him, or Tommy would want Vargas to make a run and Vargas wouldn't know where to go. And, Vargas almost had Polito in for a goal right before halftime. He played him through and Polito put it in the back of the net. Vargas just waited too long to make the pass. It felt like that was sort of a theme all night, as Vargas just was a little hesitant and didn't quite have it on Saturday night.
Vargas also looks like he's trying to draw fouls too. He looks like he had that little he has that South American nature in him, dude, to roll around if he wants to, and he pops right back up too when he doesn't get the foul. I'm like, damn, that is what y'all are trained to do, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's particularly in sort of CONMEBOL leagues or whatnot, or I mean CONCACAF too. That's you get more of that. It gets a little weird. My fear, especially on San Jose's right side where Christian Espinoza was and Tim Leibold was defending, there were some times where Espinoza just blew by Leibold where it looked like Leibold was standing still. And I was like, this is a problem because Christian Espinoza is one of the fastest players in the league. And even on the other side, Lopez was Shelton. Lopez was getting the better of Shelton for a while. I was very worried that the longer Sporting went without scoring, the more that these wingers were going to be able to blow by our fullbacks. And then it didn't help when Rosero, who I would argue is our best center back, got injured and came off, and now you have 2 young center backs.
Didn't get injured, apparently. Peter said that Rosero just told me his hamstring was feeling tight.
Yeah.
So nothing really happened, but I think that was more of the player and Danny saying that something could happen, but it hasn't happened, and I don't want it to happen.
Yeah. And I respect it. I mean, it sounds like it happened when, he had that header on the corner. I think it was corner, might have been set piece, where he kind of went into the wall and he stayed down there for a second. So I don't know if he just pulled it a little bit because he stayed down there for a moment. But yeah, you could tell he was grabbing his hamstring. And it's much better to come off when you feel a slight tweak than fully tear it, because if he tore his hamstring, then Rossero's done for the rest of the year. So
can't have that. The dude's been a beast on set pieces. I didn't realize we were tied for third in set pieces, set piece goals, I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And also, are we tied for first in outside the box goals?
That wouldn't surprise me.
I mean, we usually bitch about like, man, we can't get any shots in the run of play. We're taking all these outside shots. Well, if we're going to be first in outside the box goals, then keep taking them.
I mean, Sporting Kansas City, if you look at how many goals we've scored this year, we have 39 goals for. I mean, that's better than everybody else in the West except for the top 5 teams. So I mean, we're in the top, just about the top third for goals scored in the Western Conference. It's the goals against that are the problem. We've allowed more goals against us than any other team outside of San Jose. So that's
a little better. And really keeping them up, dude. I really thought San Jose was going to equalize there at the end. There were moments where I was like, we're in trouble.
Boy.
We're not going to win.
It got a little nervy. Well, so again, first half, not a whole lot. Second half, some subs come in. Daniel Shallowy, Johnny Russell, Remy Voltaire come into the game.
Right? Subs. Those names were subs. That's crazy.
And Daniel Sperry did some voodoo magic with his Twitter account and said it's been 14 games since Eric Tommy scored a goal. And then 2 minutes into the second half, Eric Tommy has the ball near the top of the box, makes some space for himself, finds the ball on his left foot, and fires a laser into the left side of the back of the net and puts Sporting Kansas City up 1-0 to start the second half. And suddenly it had been 0 games since Eric Tommy had scored a goal.
That goal was crazy. William Yarborough was just like, what now?
He didn't even move.
He didn't move. Because, I mean, I think the fake shot made everyone kind of make a quick movement to their left, and he just cuts it onto his left foot. And was it kind of a knuckleball a little bit? It was kind of different.
It had a little bit of knuckling movement to it, but I think, honestly, I don't think Yarborough just expected Tommy to shoot.
Yeah.
And he had 3 or 4 defenders in front of him, and Tommy does well to, fake the shot off his right foot, crossed over to his left, and that's really where he just created his own space. So it was just fine. And then after he did his voodoo magic for Eric Tommy, someone asked Daniel Sperry, hey, are there any other goal scorers that you'd like to score tonight? And he did his voodoo magic once again. And he goes, well, I've mentioned that Alan Pulido needs to score some goals. And then moments later in the 57th minute, Alan Pulido gets his 4th goal of the year, his first goal in a number of games, because Daniel Sperry is a wizard. So it was a beautiful pass from Nemanja Radia, just absolutely impeccable pass. And then Pulido finally, we've been missing this from him, finishes 1-on-1 and just puts Sporting KC up 2-0.
Listen, he scored earlier in the game that was just a tad offsides, and it was just barely, dude, just barely offsides. And this one was very close too, man. He really hugs that line.
Mm-hmm.
But Peter said he is just what's the word he used when he's in that space? He's dangerous or deadly. He said he is deadly in that area of goal. So it's like his percentage of conversion 1-on-1 with the keeper in that angle, it's pretty high, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But hey, Alan's back, baby. We needed him. This is good confidence for him, man.
Yeah. I don't know. Thank you, Daniel Sperry, for calling the 2 goal scorers ahead of time. I don't know. It was funny that when I saw it happen, I made a little, kind of poking fun, like, 0 games since Eric Tommy scored tweet that I put up. And then I did it for Pulido too. But it was after he did with the Pulido goal, I found that clip from Dune where Javier Bardem's like, Lisa Al Gaib. And I tweeted it out, and I wanted more people to like it, but I don't think enough people got it, because I was like, this dude has predicted 2 goals ahead of time. Like, he had, like, what else is he other than Lisa Al Gaib?
So that's so funny. His face is so shocked when he delivers that line.
Lisa Al Gaib.
You know what his eyes look like? Like Kramer from Seinfeld coming in the apartment every time. Just
and Josh Brolin's like, what? Unfortunately, what should have been an easy game for Sporting to see out, of all people, it's Johnny Russell, who just an absolutely terrible ball into the midfield. And as soon as that happened, Johnny didn't really run back all that much either. He kind of slowly meandered his way back. And I'm sitting there thinking, this better not end in a goal. Because if this ends in a goal by a stupid-ass pass from our captain, who then lets up a goal down the field, and now it's a 1-goal game with 10 minutes plus stoppage time left. If we somehow lose this game because of it, I was so mad. And Kyrie got the own goal technically, but it's not Kyrie's fault.
No, it sucks, but everyone's going to point out Kyrie doing something wrong or whatever. That pisses me off. But, like, dude, you knew some shit was going to happen. The way they were coming on that counterattack, I'm like, oh, shit's about to get goofy. Yeah. And it got pretty goofy. Just couldn't clear it. Tim was like, oh, no, that's going into my own goal. It was random shit was going on.
Yeah. Kyrie probably went to ground when he maybe didn't need to. But, again, he shouldn't have ever been put in that position.
And it was a bad pass, right?
Pass.
Yeah.
It was just a pass to nobody. I think he was trying to get it to Berhalter, and he just totally misjudged where Berhalter was or mishit the ball or whatnot, and Berhalter couldn't get there.
We've had some moments like this. When do they start doing just passing drills for an hour in training? Like let's make this work.
Just be normal with the ball. Like
just be normal.
Just for one game where, like, hey, we have a 2-goal lead. There's 10 minutes left. But what if we just don't pass the ball to them on a breakaway?
Sounds great.
Seems like it shouldn't be hard.
2-0, dangerous lead in soccer. So I'm freaking out after this. I'm like, we are not winning this shit. And no way, no how.
Well, and they probably should have tied it. I don't know who it was. I forget the player at the end where he just totally whiffs what should have been a wide open shot on goal.
Sporting KC signed that man apparently at one point. I don't remember him at all.
Was that him? I think it was the
Judd
signing.
Yeah.
Preston.
But I mean, still, he's in the club, and when that shit happens, and you've heard the commentators say that, I'm like, well, glad we didn't hang on to him.
So, team wins. A lot of good talk about the mentality after going a full 120 minutes.
That's the word of the year, bro. Mentality.
There's been a lot of mentality talk. We heard from Peter. We heard from Tommy. You know, they're both happy, obviously, with the win. And now they're looking forward to a big match this Saturday at home. St. Louis comes to town.
Listen, do you know there are only 2 teams that have yet to win a road game?
Who are that?
In the whole league? Well, it's St. Louis and Dallas. Mm-hmm. That's crazy. Damn, dude. I feel good about this. I don't, as good as can be, I suppose. Double game night if in Kansas City. People can't go to both. You kind of got to pick your allegiances. My gut would probably be to go to KC Current since they're, top of the league or nearby.
It's not a league game, right? It's a Leagues Cup Seminole game.
You're right. So that kind of sways it back to St. Louis because if you've ever been to a Sporting in St. Louis game, the atmosphere is just different. Yeah. It's electric.
Yes.
Boogie, woogie, woogie. It's great, dude.
I have a coworker who's going with her husband and kids to this game. It's their first Sporting game. They're like, is this a good game to go to? And I was like, you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know what game you just picked.
I have no idea. You're like, hold on, I just peed my pants. You're going to have a great time.
Yeah. So it's, and St. Louis is going to be mad because they're coming off a pretty embarrassing 4-1 loss at home to Vancouver.
That is upsetting. I don't want to ever play anyone that's upset because they got vengeance on the mind, and especially it's a rivalry like this. It's scary. It's a rivalry.
St. Louis, they fired their coach a few weeks ago, Bradley Carnell. They're a team in flux. They came into the league last year, right? It was their first year, and they thought that, they were running the league, and it was MLS 5.0, 6.0, 7.0, whatever it is now. Every time a new team comes into the league, it's a new one, and they thought they figured it out because they were the first team ever in the history of the league to try out press defense. And turns out it's a lot harder to play in MLS than maybe they thought. So this is one of those games where already, even though it's only a year and a half old, I throw out the records when St. Louis and Sporting play. I never really know what's going to happen. So
why are we talking about our Wednesday game?
Is there a Wednesday game?
We play Vancouver, dog.
Do we really?
Yeah.
How did I miss that?
I mean, when you went to St. Louis, I was like, oh, okay, he's going to talk about the bigger game probably. Yeah, we play Vancouver Wednesday at 9:30.
Holy crap, you're right. That's a road. Okay, it's a road game. That's why I forgot. Cause I'm like, oh, it's a road game. Yeah, so we got to play Vancouver. Vancouver's a good team.
They are. I got to tell you, we're kind of stacking these teams we have just besides Vancouver and Colorado. We're kind of playing the bottom of the barrel in the conference. we beat Austin, we beat Dallas, beat San Jose. Now we're playing St. Louis. We're all below the playoff line. All those teams I've mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Now Vancouver, this could be tough, man. They've had some
on the road
shining moments.
Yeah. Vancouver. I mean, they're beatable at home. They're 4-3-2 at home. So it's not like they're unbeatable. Their defense is good, not great. It's sort of a middle of the pack defense in the Western Conference. Their offense is decent. And like we just said, they just destroyed St. Louis on the road in St. Louis 4-1. So they'll be feeling good. So yeah, this is going to be another interesting couple of stretches because Peter Vermees even talked about, he said, I'm not normally a rotation guy, but we've had to do a lot more rotation this year because of just the schedule congestion and injuries and such. So the rotation is going to have to continue with, another game 3 days from now and then another game 3 days after that. I'm especially traveling up to Vancouver. That's not a quick trip. It's a pretty far trip. So I don't know. I mean, you're kind of at the point now with 10 games left for Sporting where you kind of are like, I don't feel like you need to win every single game if you feel like you're going to shoot, for a playoff spot. But at minimum, you got to draw in Vancouver and win in St. Louis. Or win against St. Louis and Kansas City.
No, that's agreeable. Well, we'll see, man. We'll see how things are going to turn around. I don't know if we've turned a corner here and we're good now. Because like I said, we beat a couple teams that are right down at the bottom with us. So it's not very impressive.
I mean, I'm not at a point where I'm prepared to be like, oh, this team is, now a playoff ready team or a good team. I think this team is, throughout this entire year, this team has had potential to be a good team. If they put it all together, they have the quality and the skill to be a good team. And yet they continued to make unforced errors, largely mental errors, that put them in spots that they shouldn't be in and cost them points. And they almost did it again on the road in San Jose. And it's not all just coming from young players. On Saturday night in San Jose, it came from the captain, Johnny Russell. Those continue to happen. Now, in San Jose, they figured out a way to survive it. But there were 2 or 3 opportunities for San Jose to grab that game that San Jose couldn't take advantage of, that a better team might have taken advantage of. So it's fair to say 24 games into the season, we kind of know who this Kansas City team is. It's not impossible that they could somehow miraculously go on a run of form and sneak their way into that 9th spot of the playoffs. No. It's technically possible, and if that happens, nobody will be happier than I am. I don't think that impacts the long-term viability of Peter Vermees as a coach, as some people think or not. I mean, it's clear Peter's going to be here for a bit.
It's not impossible to think that we can't do exactly what happened last year. And by that, I mean not going very far in the playoffs if we squeeze in.
Well, I mean, they went on a little run into the playoffs and ended up losing in Houston in a game that they maybe could have won. And, then they could have gone to the conference finals. But I do think it's much less likely that this team this year with 10 games left and they've played one more game than a lot of the teams ahead of them and just behind them, it's much less likely that they actually pull it off this year. More than likely, I would say they end in that 11th, 12th position somewhere, probably 4 or 5 points out of the playoffs. But they could do it technically, mathematically, it's possible. And if they're going to do it, minimum draw in Vancouver and then win back in Kansas City against St. Louis. So we'll see, which are both possible. It's just the schedule congestion doesn't help. But then the St. Louis game is the last league game until August 24th, because then you have the Leagues Cup break. Mm-hmm. So get a little healthy. You know what? If you don't win the Leagues Cup, that's fine. I don't really feel like we need to go for it. Take some time off, get healthy, and then finish out the season. I'm okay with that. But we'll see. So, yeah. Do you have anything else you want to say? Was there any other games that you saw happen over the week that you want to point out, or should we just move on to maybe talking a little bit of U.S. soccer news before we sign off?
U.S. soccer news, why not?
There, as people had been clamoring for online from a select group of fans, the United States Soccer Federation finally announced on July 10th that they have relieved U.S. men's national team coach Gregg Berhalter of his duties following the Copa America failure. I think this is expected. I don't think most people really thought that Gregg would continue to be the coach after the way things went in Copa America, even if you could argue that, yeah, Tim Weah doesn't punch a man in the head, then probably move on. Probably not Gregg's fault, but body of work, probably time to move on. And then a lot of fans online decided, well, if Gregg's been fired and Jurgen Klopp is available, then obviously our next coach is going to be Jurgen Klopp. And
you said that he wasn't even interested. Like that, he's not interested, right?
No, he's not interested. They apparently called him and he immediately was like, nah, I'm good. And then there's the conspiracies of, U.S. Soccer lowballed him. They didn't even really want him. And I'm like, no, it just turns out Jurgen Klopp, when he said he wants to take a year off from coaching, he just wants to take a year off from coaching. Like,
when you say that, he means it. Can you imagine, like, yeah, I'm going to take some time off, and everyone's like, got a proposition for you. It's like, God damn it, no one listens to me.
Well, and people started reading way too much because he put up his 4th of July post on Instagram where he was like, happy 4th of July to all my American fans. And they're like, this is him signaling that he wants the job. And I'm like, or he's just saying happy 4th of July because he knows there's a lot of American Liverpool fans. So it was never going to be Jurgen Klopp. Now there's rumors that Steve Cherundolo, the LAFC coach, is the number one contender. And a lot of fans are really mad about that because they don't want him to be the coach.
They don't.
No. To me, this just feels like this is a case of everybody's going to be mad no matter what happens. Like, you just can't make U.S. men's national team Twitter fans happy.
Well, you're never
miserable group of people.
You're never going to make people happy.
Yeah. And I don't know. I tried to let people know, like, international managers are vastly different than club managers. Like, you look at Argentina, they hired from their youth national team to be their coach. You look at Spain, they hired from their youth national team to be their coach. You look at England, they hired from their youth national team to be their coach. You look at Brazil, they hired a manager from the Brazilian league. It is pretty rare, especially for even these big-time national teams, that you get one of the best club managers in the world to come manage your international team. It's just a different beast. So I think, I don't know, we'll see what happens.
No announcements yet, though.
No announcements yet. Cherundolo gave some interesting comments after the Seattle game where he was like, I'm the LAFC coach for now, and I'm here and happy to be here, and we'll see what happens in the future. And then Wilfred Nancy, the Columbus Crew coach, who's also been rumored, he gave almost an identical answer. He's like, I'm the Columbus Crew coach now, and we'll see what happens in the future.
Peter said at one point,
Yeah. Now, Wilfred Nancy and the Crew just beat LAFC 5-1, so I don't know, maybe that's the U.S. Men's National Team Cup where Wilfred Nancy just gets to be the coach now because he just beat Steve Cherundolo 5-1. On U.S. Soccer, that might be how they make decisions. I don't know. But we did get an interesting email along this line from one of our listeners, Andrew McPherson. It was subject line PV to GGG. And he goes, to preface, I understand and I am appreciative of the fact that this is very unlikely to happen. However, ... What would be the fan reaction if Peter Vermees was let go and the club hired Gregg Berhalter in his place? Do you think that would change the fortune of the club much? And I've listened to a lot of discourse around the new U.S. men's national team, a new coach for the U.S. men's national team, and have also listened to Joe Lowry talk about how he thinks coaches impact teams. What do you think would change? So do you think that if in this weird alternate reality, somehow Peter Vermees was let go and Gregg Berhalter was hired in his place, things would get better for Sporting Kansas City?
I don't know.
I don't think
exactly. That's not exactly a thing that would happen. No,
I don't. I mean, like you said, I don't think it's a thing that would happen. But and Gregg, I think, is a fine MLS coach. But again, this goes back to a little bit what we talked about last week. I'm not saying Peter doesn't have things he couldn't have done better, but I think we're learning more and more that ownership has a lot of changes they need to make in how they view this club, and simply just swapping one coach out for another does not solve those issues.
Look at the way Miami has kind of grown their roster, dude, and brought people in. Like, they got guys on the bench ready to come in and put up numbers. You know what I mean? They're like, dude, they're like KU Duke basketball. I mean, they got people coming off the bench to do work. Yeah. It's we don't really have that. And it's not just because of injuries. It's because we don't really have the quality of play out there.
Yeah. So I don't think, I think fans would be terribly unhappy if this were to happen. It'd be one of those... the PV out fans, especially, it would be a real life version of that pro referee when he did the VAR the other day, where he was like, the goal is offsides, and everyone cheers, and he goes, however, it would be like, Peter Vermees has been relieved of his duties, and everybody like, yay, and he goes, however, Gregg Berhalter has been hired in his place, and everybody would be like, no. So I don't think this would be a good... It's not going to happen, but I don't think it would be
not going to
anyway. But hey, Andrew, thank you for the hypothetical. It's an interesting thought discussion. An interesting thing to wrap your mind about. And speaking of things to wrap your mind around, we would be remiss if we did not go to one of our favorite segments of the week, Chip, the Keeper of Stats.
Chip's Keeper of Stats. Let me pull it up right here, dude. I got it. Chip says this week, for the first time this season, Sporting Kansas City has won back-to-back league games and marked their third league win in the last 4 matches. 4 wins in 5 matches if you count the Open Cup game against Dallas. Granted, those wins were against the current 10th, 11th, and 14th place teams in the West. But points are points. While playoff dreams are extremely far from where we are now, it is reassuring that we aren't dropping points against teams which are having tea and biscuits with us at the bottom of the West. I'll take what we can get, and in all seriousness, anything that will build confidence in this team is something worth pursuing. Aside from the last 10 minutes after the own goal, the team looked like they were having more fun and seemed more in control. Sure, it was against the presumptive wooden spoon winner, but again, points are points are points. SKC has moved to 1.8 points per game in their last 5 league matches, which is a season high, but not entirely unexpected considering the form of the teams we have been playing. Important thing is that with the win against San Jose, we have leapfrogged St. Louis, getting us to 12th place. Dallas is in 11th place and is 3 points ahead of us, so let's keep going. SKC continues their run of games from June 29th on to July 20th and seem to be playing in good form. We even saw a goal from one Alan Polito, which had been an extremely long time coming, almost 800 minutes played without a goal, and his last goal happening in the match on April 27th at Minnesota. Truth be told, he could have had another one, and he would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for that meddling linesman. Here's the part where Dan or Jimmy needs to impersonate some Scooby-Doo villain, but if Dan just reads this part out loud, that works too. You see what happens when I do a cold read, bro? I'm unprepared to do a voice. While much of the Kansas City attack came from the sides as it normally does, there were also several through balls played which opened up the attack. Both Polito's goal and the goal that was called back for offsides came from through balls where we could exploit the defense. Looking at the tape, Polito had his run right where he wanted it, but the pass to him from Vargas just came too late. But between those 2 attempts and the rocket he launched in the 44th minute, there was aggressiveness on the ball I don't think we've seen much lately from Polito. I'm curious to see how he plays going forward. Hopefully netting the goal is going to make him hungry for more, but his goals per 90 minutes is still 0.25 per 90, which is 7th on the team out of 15 goal scorers. Looking to our next matches, we have 2 more before the break, including away at Vancouver coming up on Wednesday. Vancouver sits at 6th in the West with 2.0 points per game in their last 5 league matches, which is nothing to balk at. In their last 5 league matches, they've won against St. Louis twice, which is 13th in the West, beat Minnesota, 9th in the West, drew against Montreal, 10th in the East, and lost to Portland, 5th in the West, while a man down. So they too have played some teams that are well within reach of beating, but that doesn't mean they're going to be an easy mark. In those last 5 games, Vancouver scored 12 goals, 11 of them happening in 3 games. Also in those 5 matches, Brian White has scored 7 of his 12 goals on the season, including a hattie against St. Louis on June 29th, so he is coming in hot. Given Sporting's difficulty with stopping attacks, this could go very badly for us if the defense isn't up to the task. However, like Sporting, Vancouver has had 5 games since June 29th, so both of those teams very well might have an aura of fatigue around them. We'll see, though. Vancouver is a team that's 4-2-3 at home, 4-2-3 at home this season, compared to SKC's 2-2-8 away record. Their goals allowed per game while at home this season is 1.56, which is the 8th highest in the entire league, but that's compared to our 1.17 goals forced per game while away, which is 20th in the league. I think if we come out aggressive and continue to try those through balls, we can see some magic happen. The through balls, man, that's something. That's something we haven't been seeing. So to see us really trying that with Allen and San Jose a little bit, would love to see more of that, you know? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, Radaya's through ball just looked absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, I mean, that's what we've been missing. Runners into the box, direct attack through the middle of the field instead of just being, firing these long balls from outside the box or whipping in crosses. So if we can do more of that, that's what this team could be. And that's where, if it's not going to come from Tommy because he likes to drift out wide at times, maybe Radaya can keep doing it. But that's where a real true Gotti Keem to replace, but true number 10 could help.
Yeah,
So,
agreed.
well, thank you, Chip. As always, we appreciate it. Yeah, man, it's going to be a busy week coming up here. I think next week you're going to be joined by our good friend and KC Current Media Game MVP Chris Wright in my place, because I'll be out of town doing some family stuff that I need to take care of. But yeah, they'll be back here to discuss the Vancouver and St. Louis game with you. But thank you all so much for listening. Make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram at NoOtherPod, at Dan Kooser, at JCMac03. Shoot us an email, nootherpod@gmail.com. We'll read them here on air. Leave us that 5-star rating and review. And make sure you check us out on YouTube, KCSN Soccer, or via the KC Sports Network app. But until next time, he's Dan. I'm Jimmy. We'll catch y'all later. See ya.
12th place, baby. We coming.